What's up, guys? It's Matt again. I'm at Revive Jiu Jitsu in Mesa, Arizona. This is George. He's my professor, coach, mentor, buddy, friend. We're going to talk to you today kind of, about what Jiu Jitsu is, kind of find out about George's life and how he got to where he is, and why he did this. And then potentially talk about some other things as well. So let's get into it. All right, George, introduce yourself.
So I'm Jorge Guerrero. Like Matt said, I'm his coach here at Revive Jiu Jitsu.
Oh, friend too.
And friend.
Yeah.
So I've been training for, since 2010, so 13 years now. Something that I just wanted to do as a hobby. At first, like I said, everybody else watches a lot of MMA, and then they want to give it a try.
Yeah.
So, then I quickly found out I didn't like getting punched in the face. So I enjoyed the striking aspect. I just didn't enjoy getting punched in the face.
Okay.
I enjoyed a lot more the groundwork and the jiu-jitsu portion of it and wrestling.
Okay.
But other than that, it's I started in a small little karate school, and when I was in that karate school, we did some jiu-jitsu with my first professor of jiu-jitsu. So he was kind of teaching as a satellite school for himself, along with his main school. And he's the one that actually gave me the bug of jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And because it's
took you out of karate.
No, doing the same thing at the same time. Just we're doing a lot of striking and jiu-jitsu at the same time. But I quickly found out that I fell in love more with jiu-jitsu than karate, and not karate but MMA. So I did jiu-jitsu. So that's if you guys know who he is, that's Gustavo Dantas. He's here. He's a local guy here in Arizona. He's the one that he's the owner of our federation that puts on the tournaments as well. So you see him there if you guys are ever here in Arizona. That's who he is. He owns a school out here in Tempe.
Wow.
That was my original coach I had for a good solid probably 11 months. And then that's when I met my coach, which is Carlos, after that, and I've been with him since, I was a white belt till now as a black belt, which I'm still with now.
Well, Carlos is pretty well known, right?
Carlos is really well known in the community. He's really well respected too. They see him as this huge, big, lumbering guy, and just a stoic face, but he's a big teddy bear. Where when I met him the same way, is I remember walking into the gym, I see this big guy just sitting on the benches, and I was like, who the heck is this guy? And then I thought maybe it was just another new student. I was like, oh no way, this guy's way big. and then it turns out, I was like, oh, he's our new coach. I was like, he's our new professor. And then quickly found out, I was like, he was really well respected, really good technique. One of the best things I ever heard was I remember watching a tournament with him. And the announcer, or not the announcers, but the play-by-play guys were just saying that he's not just a big guy; he's a big guy with technique. Where there's the difference, we have some big guys that are just kind of just more strength, where it was technique behind the movements. But
which is dangerous.
Which is dangerous. That's why I teach all my big guys here. Make sure we have technique along with that strength.
Yes.
Because it's going to be beneficial later on down the road, even. Same thing I tell my kids. I have 2 kids of my own. I have one that's 11 and one that's 7. That we have to make sure we understand on how to defend ourselves. That's why if you've never tried jiu-jitsu before, and if you ever want to give it a try, I would say try it. If be it here or be it somewhere else, give it a try, because you would see that how you can be a fish out of water once you have somebody that's trained and can do certain things, but also gives you the confidence that you can have in the gym, but also in your normal life. Especially for me, that's why I enjoy jiu-jitsu and why I stuck with it for so long. It wasn't just a sport for me. It was something that I saw as it started giving me a lot of confidence in my normal life. Where me growing up, I was always been small, so I never had a whole lot of confidence. I couldn't really play a lot of sports that required a lot of contact sports because I was always kind of too small for everything. Okay. So when I found jiu-jitsu, I saw I can do it, and it didn't require a bunch of strength. And B, it gave me a lot of confidence in my normal life, and and also it gave me a whole lot of mental confidence, because I suffer from some depression. So like I understand, like if I'm not training, for me training is the best option for me.
Oh, of course.
Or
yeah.
I need to have that mental outlet of anything. If I'm not doing anything and I just have a mind that's just there, it just starts to wander off. So for me, it's beneficial for not just physical, but for my mental state, where it's, you know, I get that exhaustion from, you know, being tired physically, but also the mental exhaustion where all I have to think about is somebody trying to kill me, you know, not literally, but just somebody trying to, you know, really trying to hurt me in the good way of training. So that's all I have to think about. So all the other stuff that has happened in my life, I can just put that aside and just train, and then come out of it. And you come out of it, I mean, I'm sure you know, where you leave here and you're physically exhausted
Yes.
if it's a good training session. Also, you're mentally exhausted. When you go home, you feel good because you just feel refreshed physically and mentally.
Yeah,
and
100%.
if you feel like if you feel that it's something you're looking for, I highly encourage it. I encourage it for kids. I encourage it for women, and anybody. I encourage it for anybody to try it. At least try it. Also, if you have your kids in there, I would say also try it, because if you're putting your kids in something, might as well try it out. See, try it. Same thing with my kids. If I would never push anything on them on if to try something if I've never tried it, or if I wouldn't try it. So anything they do, I encourage it, because try to get them to do as many things as they can to get them opened up to a whole lot of different experiences.
Well, you're really good with kids too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not too many coaches that are. I mean, he really is good with kids. He has a good temperament, explains things, keeps things very safe. And that's how I originally met you. Was I brought my daughter in. I remember I was like on Facebook searching for things for my, at that time, I think 7-year-old daughter she was. Mm-hmm. And then your wife was like, "Oh, why don't you try this?" And she took a picture of like a couple of kids. I think it was like 10 kids at a time.
Yeah.
We were in your garage, and I was like, okay. I was always into like contact sports, running, stuff like that. So I was like, I've never done wrestling, but I figured this would be up my alley at some point.
Yeah.
And then just for kids in general, just for them to know, they don't have to be the best of the best, but just them to know how to get out of certain situations that might not be the best for them. They can get out of them and then at least run or go to safety. But yeah, so I'm gonna get my daughter in, and then I came to the class, and he's like, "Oh," just very nonchalantly, was like, "Hey, most dads join about a week or so after the kids start." And then I started looking, and it's like, oh, every adult there was pretty much one of the kids' fathers. So with all of that, I was like, well, we'll see. And then eventually I did end up joining, and it's pretty fun. I mean, it's definitely, you definitely need to have humility. If you're the best of the best at whatever you think you're at, this will take you down to like, oh, wait a second, there's other things out there, and there's other techniques, and there's other things. But I mean, you get to learn a lot. And it does take, like you said, about 13 years to get a black belt?
Usually takes about 10 years to get a black belt.
So did you get it in 10 years?
Yeah, I think I got my 10th year.
Okay.
It's like, so, but.
Well, explain that process though. Like, did you have to go 3 times a week, every day? Did you have to twice a day? Like, how did you get there?
So usually it takes 10 years to get your black belts, to get your black belt in jiu-jitsu, because there's so much to learn. I mean, as you know, so far there's so many nuanced moves that you need to learn on top of the self-defense portion aspect of it. But it's just, the reason why is that from jiu-jitsu to other martial arts is just, there's so many moves that we need to learn and that you need to, per se, master. So you might learn, one position this week, one position next week, or a whole position one month. And if also it depends on how often you train. For me, sure. I fell in love with it, so I was trying to train as much time as I could. But when I started training, I had no kids.
Okay, right.
So
a lot of free time.
A lot of free time, and my wife worked, a little later, so I would try to squeeze in a lot of training. For me, I was trying to train at least 6 times a week if I could. Some days would be double days where I train out in the morning, train at night.
12 times a week?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh my God,
so I trained a lot, so I fell in love with it. And so if you train, I mean, some people can get something, you know, you have those outliers, you have like, you know, that have got their black belts in like 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. That's just because they're in the gym all day. They're doing 3 sessions a day, right? And so you're cramming 10 years of experience in a short amount of time.
Gotcha.
For the 10 years is for the hobbyist that comes in, you know, 3-4 times a week at the most. Usually I tell all the students that my students, you know, the sweet spot's 3 times a week.
Okay.
Anything less than that, we're just kind of, we're not going to really retain any of the information. So I tell all my students to make sure we at least come 3 times a week if we can. If we can't understand family things happen, like especially for me, I had when my daughter was born, I took a year off. When my wife went back to school, I took a year off in that time frame. So life happens. I know you took some time off, you know, got busy, took a little time off, and then I have other students that take time off and then they come back. So I try to tell them, like, if, you know, life's happens, so no big deal, but jiu-jitsu is always going to be here. There's never something where you have to make sure it's like you have to be here. Also, a big part of it is making sure we're taking care of our body.
Yes.
And that comes along with
knowing
you, or, you know, making sure I'm taking care of my body. And I ask them out all the time, hey, if, you know, I feel this, I feel that. And then now I'm dealing with the whole recovering from a major back surgery. So with the back surgery.
that's something, that's what I did want to hit on, because it was something that you had brewing since you were like a child, like a teenager, like middle school, right?
Yeah. So from what my surgeon said, it was a childhood injury, just the way my spine was, the facets of the spiny parts of the spine, right? I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's
what they were telling me, they're called that those spiny bones in my back were completely broken off, both sides. So it's like Matt can let you know that something for that to happen as an adult is what I was told is when my surgeon told me I had been in a major car wreck.
Yeah.
And which I've never was in a major car. I mean, I was in a car, but not anything where the car was totaled or anything like that. Where, you know, the car flipped or anything, or anybody, because I guess from what I was told that it has to be like a force coming from your back pushing into your back. So like a lot of football players cause that kind of force, where you have like you know, people that break their backs in football just because of the force from their back. But for me, it wasn't like that.
Like so, the 2 tips touch and
they're broke. It's like so.
Yes.
The little bones are broken, and then I had the disc between the 2 vertebrae was pretty much non-existent. And it was causing a lot of sciatic pain and pushing into my spinal cord there, which I was told the nerves, more of the nerves than anything. So it was never something I had an injury in jiu-jitsu. Like I never hurt my back in jiu-jitsu.
Well, you had this back problem,
but I had the back problem. I think
through this whole process
wasn't helping it, I guess. But from what the doctor was saying, it would have got worse with the time, anyways. Mm-hmm. I guess they said that it happens it's a common injury as a child, because I guess the kid when they're children, their spine's a little more malleable, but also their kids are more resilient. He says so when they hurt themselves, he says that their back will be hurting one day, and the next day they're fine. So you never know any difference. So you just take it as like, oh, they just probably kind of injured their back. And it's like, so then he said that I was probably fine the next day, but it was actual injury. And he says that usually what happens 20 years later, which was where I was at, that it starts having problems, even if it was a jiu-jitsu related or anything. But I remember I was training one day and nothing out of the norm. I was just sparring, and then I felt a pinch in my back. And then it hurt so bad, it hurt just to drive home. So I knew there was something physically wrong. Right. And then now looking back at it, when I was training, I remember looking back at it where I was like, there was times where I was training and I would lose strength in my legs, but it wasn't hurting.
Okay, so how was that like?
So if I was spar and I was trying to push people back with my legs, I realized that I just my legs were getting fatigued. And I had no strength in my legs, and where before it was never a problem. So I just took it as maybe it was overtraining. Okay. Because that's when I was a time where I was really training and getting ready for different tournaments. So I was just probably like, my body's tired. I'm gonna give my body a break. So I took a couple days break, and that was fine. But then that one time where I was sparring and I felt like a slight pinch in my back, and I went to get up and I couldn't straighten out. And then it hurt so bad. And then when I get in the car, it hurt just to drive. So when I knew that was a problem, I went to go see my chiropractor, and I told him, hey, can we take an x-ray? I feel like there's something wrong, because there's something physically wrong at this point. And it's like, so we took an x-ray, and my chiropractor, he's like, I came back the next day or 2 days later, and he goes, I asked him, I was like, is it good news or bad news? And he goes, this is some bad news. I was like,
oh no.
So he was completely honest with me. He's like, I can't do anything for you. I was like, he told me what it was, and it was spot on. It was exactly what it was. It's like, so when I went to go see the surgeon, the surgeon was like, oh yeah, that's, what the surgeon said is what exactly the chiropractor said, where it's like, oh yeah, this is it. He's like, you can do physiotherapy and maybe straighten, like we talked about, straighten up my glutes and my back and my core to strengthen the whole area. But when I did physiotherapy, nothing was really helping the pain. Yeah. So we did cupping, we did stem units, we did acupuncture with stem on it. All that just relieved the muscles from being tense, and and that was fine. But my wife can tell you is like when before the surgery, every night if I trained, every night was just a struggle. I would be in bed, bed with the TENS unit, I'd be in bed with the ice pack on my back, and it was just, I would be hurting so bad. So I knew once I found out I had actual injury, I think my mind also played games with me and made the injury even worse. I think I just felt every little pain now.
It's just highly possible.
So yeah, before I didn't know anything was wrong, so I was just like, it's fine.
But it'll heal.
But so then when I found out I had an actual injury, even my training just kind of like was completely different, because it was always in the back of my head.
Yeah. And
then I had surgery, and I had a spinal fusion last May, so almost a year ago. So
okay.
And now I'm at the 10-month mark. So, or yeah, a little.
Going on
to the 10th mark. Yeah. Where now, like, I train today, and I can feel like I'm getting better, because sometimes when I train, when you guys first started kind of coming back and train a little bit, I'd be sore at the end of this session. So then the next day I would train. So that's why you would see me kind of just more watching you guys than anything, because the next day I was like, I'm feeling a little sore. So then I was like, I'm not gonna train. I'll listen to my body. I have a long road. So now I train today, I was like, I feel good. I was like, but that doesn't mean to push it any harder. It's like, I just understand that I'm just getting better. So,
well, which is hard for most guys in jiu-jitsu. But I think you have the black belt wisdom.
Well, that's the thing. I'm coming out from now back surgery and 2 knee surgeries. So
you had another knee surgery.
So the knee surgeries are completely jiu-jitsu related. back surgery was not jiu-jitsu related, but don't let that throw you guys off for anything. It's like, if you play any sport long enough, you'll have injuries. Even weightlifting or anything, you do it long enough, you'll have an injury. That's with any sport, and that's why people kind of are deterred from doing a sport like this or any sport, because of injuries. But you should not let that hold you back. And it's like, because you'll come back from any sport you do long enough, you'll get hurt. Even soccer, football, baseball, you do it long enough, you'll have an injury. And that's any sport. Even just running,
Oh, of course.
Running, you'll have an injury. Hiking, you'll have an injury. It's like you roll the wrong way. But after all the injuries I've had, and that's mind you, that's 13 years of jiu-jitsu, I've only had actual two injuries that required surgery. And that was just more me being stubborn than anything. And that's one thing that's why a lot of things you have to make sure your ego's out the door, because your ego can get you hurt, right? And
it's usually the case.
And for me, it's like there was no ego, I was just being stubborn. It's like, especially training with my training partners, is like, we've trained with them so long, I know they're not trying to hurt me. Yeah. So you try to fight out of things a little more, and and then you end up hurting yourself more. That's why I tell you guys, make sure we're keeping it safe. I'm okay with you guys fighting out of things, but understand that at some point, if you can't get out, just tap, or else you will injure yourself.
That's true.
Your partner's never going to injure you. You're going to actually injure yourself most of the time.
Right.
Most of the time is you're going to injure yourself because we're just too stubborn sometimes. But if you're getting ready for something, then you have to kind of have that mentality. Like, I got to kind of fight out of some things, but
there's a limit.
There's a limit.
You find that limit fast.
And as we're getting older, you'll find that really quick too, that you'll be prone to injuries more. That's why you have to make sure we are taking care of your bodies.
Yeah.
And I think a good thing about doing any sport, I think you'll start learning more about your body and listening to your body. I'll tell you right now, I should eat a little bit better than I do. I don't eat, bad, like super bad, but I don't, eat super healthy. So I'm kind of in that in between where, I kind of listen to my body. Same thing as I started jiu-jitsu, I listen to my body more. Taking supplements is a big thing. Drinking a whole lot of water. We were just talking to my wife about drinking a whole lot of water, right?
Hydrating is highly important.
And for me, I got to drink as much water as I can, especially people that train. We got to, because we're losing so much sweat in here.
Yes.
We got to replenish it. Supplements, eating right, and that's a big part of training, especially for us older residents. I'm not that old, but getting older.
Jiu-jitsu, sport old.
I am sport old. My body is like an 8-year-old body.
You don't bounce back. Yeah, you don't bounce back.
So you have a jiu-jitsu body. So you're putting a lot of miles on your body, but it's fine. It's like I do it for the love of it. I feel like I have one body. I'm gonna use it to the best that I can, and I have one life to live. So I'm gonna do what I love to do. And I was fortunate. When I did jiu-jitsu, my goal was never to teach.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that was never my goal to teach. I just love jiu-jitsu. I just love to train. And then
so what changed? Like what?
When my teammates started coming to me for advice on like moves.
Okay.
Because they were always like, I see you training, and you can always keep the bigger guys at bay and not let them submit you. And
That's true.
And all this stuff. And because I am the smallest black belt that I have in our gym. So, and before I was the youngest. Now that title got taken away from me. Now the youngest is a 26-year-old Kevin, but he's a big guy. I've seen him train since he was like 15.
Oh, he's been going for a while.
He's been going for a while. So he's 26 now. I think he just got his black belt. So he's now our youngest one. Before it was me, now no longer me. So I'm glad that title was taken away from me.
As it should with time, right?
It should have been time, because that means our teammates are getting better. But no, it's like
But it keeps you lean. I mean, that's good.
Yeah, it keeps you lean. Yeah, and keeps you learning.
Yeah.
If you have the other teammates that are getting better, because they, or else will stay kind of stagnant. But going back to why I wanted to teach, I would show certain teammates moves, or even just people that come from out of town, and they would ask me questions, and I show them, and like, hey, do this or do that. This is why I do this. Same thing I want to do with you guys, and then I see you guys, or see my teammates doing it at the time. When I see my teammates doing it and it worked, and they'll come back and say, hey man, that really worked, thanks. And I was like, yeah, no problem. It's like, and then I'll see them doing it like in competition, right? And then I see them, I was like, oh man, I was like, and you get a really good satisfaction out of that, where you see you're helping somebody out. And then, so that's when like I started kind of thinking, I was like, oh, but then what actually motivated me to teach was, why am I training? I'm training because I love jiu-jitsu, but then if I stop training, then that's it. It's like jiu-jitsu stops with me with lineage with my coach. I was like, well, I want to get back to something that jiu-jitsu gave me a whole lot of going back to. It gave me a lot of self-confidence, a lot of purpose, I guess, is in my life. I was like, where it's giving me more than just like a self-defense aspect. It just gave me a lot more. And I just feel like I can do a lot. I mean, you guys know is where when you're training, you're never going to be put in that tough a situation in your normal life. And hopefully I think that's where, right? It's like that's where you're fought. I've had a lot of big things before in the mats. Everything else in life just seems easy.
That's true.
For me, at least for me,
conquer a lot of different things.
It gives you a lot of that confidence, and a lot of things where it's like you've done a lot of hard training. I've done so many different things, competed, that everything else kind of like it just seems a little easier now. So it gave me a lot of that, and so I was like, well, I want to get back to a sport that gave me a lot. So that was a big part of it too, right? I wanted to get back to the sport that gave me a whole lot in my life. Okay. And so either be a teacher to my family and my kids and my wife, and then I was like, I talked to my wife. I was like, hey, I think I want to teach. And I was like, what do you think about opening, the garage and just kind of teaching people in the garage? So then my wife surprised me on Christmas one year, and she got me some rollaway mats.
Oh, so
really?
She started most of it.
Yeah, she started most of it.
Nice.
And she's off to the side over here. It's like, so
she's fist bumping.
Yeah, so she had bought me those mats. I was like, and mats aren't cheap. So I was like, so when she bought me some mats, I was like, okay. So I actually started doing private lessons in my garage with one of my best friends, Marco. Then my buddy Steven will come. He's a black belt now. And we would just go over moves, and we'd do like Sunday mornings, early Sunday morning, 6 a.m. Be in my garage, and we'd just be studying film. Wow. And we would just be studying film in my garage. Me and my buddy Marco. He's the same size as me. He's a purple belt. He just stopped training a little bit. But Marco, if you see this, and then you go back to training. It's like so.
Go back to training, Marco.
Yeah,
you're so
like,
close.
And so we would be in there, and then it's like Trisha would be. It's like, where are you going? I was like, oh, Marco's here. I was like, we're gonna study film. We'll just study film and then just try the moves on each other. And it's like, and just see and just study why things work. And then a big thing of it for me, it was just seeing why things work at a high level, and then that kind of intrigued my interest. But yeah, that's how it started in my garage. So it came from wanting to pass down the knowledge to other people, to my teammates, and I was like, okay, I want to teach. And then I was like, we started training in my garage, and then I had two of my first students were 2 kids that are from the neighborhood.
Okay.
And then and they came in, and then just word of mouth spread, and then more kids came in, and then adults came in, you guys came in, and
wow.
And then we just outgrew my garage just from word of mouth. And I was like, word of mouth, and just what you saw posted, what Trisha would post on Facebook.
Okay.
And it just grew, and then we got to a point where it just got too big for my garage. I was like, where I didn't want to,
like 20 people,
where there's so many cars in front of my house, and I was like, well, it's time to move into a place then. And it's like, so then we just found this place where we're at right now. We've been here for about a year and a half now, and we just slowly outgrown this place. And then
where are you at? Where are you located?
We're here in East Mesa. So where I live in East Mesa, we're Signal Butte in Southern. So it's 1113 South Signal Butte Road in Mesa.
Right next to the Taco Bell?
Right next to the Taco Bell.
There's a Taco Bell there if you want to eat afterwards?
Fortunately, that Taco Bell has given me a lot of business. Where that's how some of my students, they go to the Taco Bell, they've seen the Taco Bell, the drive-through, and then they saw the banner that I used to have up about jiu-jitsu, and that's how they found me. And now that's how a lot of people found me, just from Google, and can Google me. It's Revive Jiu Jitsu or Jiu Jitsu in East Mesa. You'll Google me and you'll see it. That's how a lot of people find me now. Don't really do any advertising, and also a lot of word of mouth. Just because it was never for me, it was never to grow the place as fast as I can. It was just more open up a space for my students that I had, and then we'll grow it, and then or grow it organically. Where I never went out to kind of like, I understand bad business wise, whereas like I'm not, promoting myself, but at the same time, I grew organically where,
that's not what you want.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say that. That wasn't your plan.
That was never my plan.
Just to teach.
My plan was just to teach. Yeah. I was like, where I just grew organically, where just word of mouth spread. It was never anything where I was going doing seminars different places. It's like, I just want to teach everybody. One thing for me is I want to teach anybody that comes through my door. I'll never turn away anybody that comes in here. I'll give anybody a chance, because I've been on the other foot, where, I've been to places where they only want to teach people that are teachable. And I think if we're doing that, we're just kind of looking at it the wrong way. It's like, because you'll have that student. So fortunately for me, I've had a lot of kids that come to me that have been bullied. The same thing with my son, same thing. You kind of run into a little bit of that, especially recently, where I will teach, and then now the kids that have come to me that have been bullied are more of my students that are just really have thrived in jiu-jitsu, where their technique's really good, they're winning in tournaments, because they get that a lot of self-confidence. And now even I have my students that other students in their school, that try to, hit them or bully them, and they've had to use jiu-jitsu in a good way. I always tell them, we're never using jiu-jitsu just to use jiu-jitsu against people that are not doing anything to us, and that's a big part of it. So fortunately, I've had some kids already had to use it. And I always tell my students, my students that are kids, I'm never near using jiu-jitsu to try to hurt anybody. Right. We're always trying to use jiu-jitsu to try to defend ourselves and just de-escalate things until we can get some help. And we're fortunate that, I tell our parents or even my adults come in, is like, give me 1 year with you. And give me one with you, or give me 1 year with your child, and you'll see you'll have a completely different child, or you'll have a completely different version of yourself. Yeah. And you'll see it, because if you train and we train properly, and your student trains properly, they'll see the moment that they step on the mats to the year later, it's completely different. And also they become really good friends with the other kids that are here. Also all the other adults, you guys become really good friends, because it becomes some of a brotherhood. And that's why I also enjoy jiu-jitsu, because anywhere you're at, you see somebody with jiu-jitsu shirt, it's like, hey, what are you training? It's like, you train too, and it's just like a big brotherhood or a sisterhood, right? And you run into somebody else jiu-jitsu, and you have that thing in common with them. And that's one big thing why Jiu-Jitsu attracts a lot of ex-military personnel and law enforcement, is because it's just that brotherhood that they miss, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we do attract. And here we have a lot of, we have a few law enforcement personnel, some corrections officers, some military people, active or non-active or retired. And then we have all walks of life. That's what Jiu-Jitsu is.
Yeah.
You have so many walks of life. I mean, you have, people that are just, we have our young students that, are still in college, to, we have some people that are, engineers, right? My teammates, I have teammates that are doctors. We have Matt here as well, and, lawyers, all kinds of people that train. And it's good because you get to meet different people from different walks of life, but we're all here doing the same thing, just struggling. Like, we're all struggling.
No, right.
So from white belt to on up, we're all just trying to struggle to learn certain moves. It's like, when you train, it's like we're all the same people. We're all just people. We're just trying to learn a sport that we're just trying to self-defense. And then I think it's from people that are just going to college to going to high school to just, working in, we have some students that are still just teens or late 20s or going to college and working just at a pizza shop, right? And then they're here, we're working on with other people, and then they're like, oh, we're just people, right? Nobody's better than anybody. We're just here training, and then you just build that brotherhood where and sisterhood where you just want to get better and you want your teammates to get better, and that's why it comes to the aspect of why I love it so much. Even to this day, I still love to train. I love to teach. I love teaching you guys. I love teaching my kids. My students and my own kids, where you just see, because you have one day where you can't do a certain move, and then like a month passed by, and now like, oh, well, look, it's like he's doing the move and he's doing more. Right. So you see that, and that's what you get the gratification. It's like, okay, we're learning, and sometimes some of us just learn more than others or easier than others. Same thing for me. I was never, a person to learn out of a book. It was more of a hands-on person. So for me, I understood it's like I learn differently than other people. So I think that's why Jiu-Jitsu was easy for me, because it's hands-on training. It's like, oh, it's easy for me. As soon as I can watch you do it, and then I can do it myself. I pick it up pretty quick, right? Instead of learning from ready to book, for me, it was never like that type of learning didn't really suit my my mentality. It was like, I understand it's we all learn differently. So that's one thing about being a teacher. For being any kind of teacher, I have a lot of respect for, because you have so many people from different walks of life. They all learn differently, so we have to learn how to teach everybody differently. Because maybe one student works really well with me pushing them, where the other student works really well with me, kind of more of the softer approach, right? Especially with my kids that are students. Some kids, they respond really well for me just push them a little harder. Some other students respond for me just kind of breaking down the moves a little more. Some kids will pick it up a little faster. Some kids will just take a little time, which I tell everybody, everything you learn in life is going to take work. So I tell my kids, I tell my own kids,
especially
and my kids in class, is they get frustrated. Even my adults, they get frustrated, and I tell them all, everything in life is going to take time. Some things will take a little longer. You catch on pretty quick, but most of the time, anything new, any skill that you need to learn, it's going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of frustration. But I tell the students, do not get frustrated, because how long things take to learn. So even like my little students, where I tell them, how long did it take for you to learn to write your name or learn the ABCs?
Right.
And I was like, did it take a long time? I was like, yes. I was like, well, how many times did you have to repeat it, right? How many times did you have to go to school and write it down? A, B, C, D, E, right? It takes a long time. Or learning how to read, right? This is all translated to my kids, where learning how to read takes a long time. So, and I tell them, I was like, Jiu-Jitsu is just the same way. But also I tell them, anything in life is the same way.
True.
If anything you want to understand it, it's going to take some time. So that's why I think it builds a lot of self-confidence in these kids, knowing that's like, okay, coach told me that things will take a long time to learn. Sometimes some things will come really fast, and some things will come really fast, but some things will take time, especially more nuanced moves or anything new in life that you want to learn. It just takes time, but you got to take it as a challenge. and you build, and then we build mentally strong young adults and mentally strong adults. Like some adults, that are
the
really,
confidence you can
right,
see
the confidence.
grows.
Because especially in adults that are already, that come from something that they're very successful in life, in business-wise or in their normal day-to-day life, and then they come to do this, and it can be very frustrating because, right, you've already become very successful in a certain part of your life, and you move on to something like this, and it's very humbling. It's very humbling. So, and it becomes quickly, that's why quickly we say you got to leave the ego at the door, because you got to throw away anything you learned in life and come in here. It's going to test you, and it's going to test you here, and it's going to test you here, right? And then it's going to also test you physically. And if you come here with an open mind, and if you come with anything with an open mind, that you'll more and more times out of 10 times out of 10, you'll succeed, because you're open to anything in your life, and especially something like this where you're trying to learn. And that's why for me, in my normal, because I also work a normal 9-to-5 job, I do, you work for a security installations company, so I've done that longer than jiu-jitsu. And that's what also helped me out in my normal 9-to-5 job, where before, managing adults, and then when I went to managing kids and teaching people from something that they don't know anything of, where I was used to teaching adults that would start brand new in our field. And I was told, now that I've learned how to teach kids, it's all trial and error for me, because I never taught kids before, just here and there covering classes for my coach, was a completely different beast. So it actually helped me out a lot too, as myself, personal growth, where once I learned how to kind of, it helps out that I have 2 kids on my own, where if I didn't have kids, I think it would be a completely different territory for me, where trying to teach kids. But coming back to that, once I was teaching kids and now going back to my normal 9-to-5 job, it makes everything a little bit easier, because I think I have a little more patience in that aspect of it. Kids, if you have kids, you understand how much patience is needed. A lot of times you have to sit back and we run out of patience, or we or we want to snap. It's like a lot of times it's not even what they're doing. It's like I think it's just we're just kind of tired that day or whatnot, or we just don't have the patience for that day. But it was never. And then come back to it, as I talked about. I don't think it's ever anything they're doing. I think we're just kind of like, that day was just a bad day. It's like we just take it that way. But and it's like same thing with teaching. And sometimes I'll have good days and bad days. I think we also understand that as adults. It's like we'll have a good days, bad days. Same thing with kids. You'll come in here, train them, and then you can just tell when I ask them, "Are you having a bad day today?" And they'll be honest with us. Like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right." So just let me know. Let me know if you're having a bad day. Same thing with adults. I can tell, like, if they're just not mentally here. Something's going on in their normal life. And I was like, hey, just, and then that's when you're learning the moves and you're doing like warm-ups, and I can just say that some of my adults are just having a bad, rough week. It doesn't have to be anything that's going on in their life. Maybe it's just work is frustrating, or a lot on their plate, family-wise and, work-wise. And then once they start sparring, we get to the sparring, all that's out the window. Yeah. Right? So that's what it comes back to. Just when you leave here, it's like, oh, nice. That's what I needed. Yeah. Right? I needed that refresher. And then I get home, and then everything becomes much easier.
Well, I ran a couple marathons when I was younger, and it's similar to that in the sense of you are just so focused on doing what as the task is at hand, that everything else just kind of goes to the wayside. You're not worrying about what that person said to you, or what you didn't do that day, or what you tried to accomplish. You are in the moment, and you're trying to survive and learn. Yep. And when you leave, you feel great. Mm-hmm. Really good. And then it helps you to sleep too.
And that's what I tell all my students, all my young students, not my adults, all my young students. At least if some of them say they leave here and it's like, oh, jiu-jitsu's not for me. That's okay. No big deal. I just tell them, do something. At least do something. Yeah. Do something else, right? Because we need some of that productive people. Exactly. And also the mental part of it for our young adults and our young kids. It's a big part of it, where we need to have them doing something. Yeah. Right? And if it's soccer, football, baseball, You know, I have a lot of kids that leave here and they take a time off jiu-jitsu because they want to go play other sports. And they think that they're hurting my feelings. Like, you're never hurt my feelings. Like, can I tell them, do something.
You'll be back.
You'll be back. If they don't come back, I tell them, just do something. Do something you love.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it. I tell everybody, do something you love, because it definitely helps out in your normal life. You know, if you have a hobby that you love to do, and it helps out with your normal day-to-day. Because if we're not having any type of outlet in your day-to-day life, then we're gonna just be, we're gonna be looking for something that, that at the end of the day could have been anything that you think could do. Ride a bike, walk the dog, something, run with a dog or something, just go out and doing something. I think it's a big part of it. I think you coming from, you're, the medical field, like, you guys understand where, an idle mind, right? We don't want an idle mind. We want we want to make sure we're doing something to get the stress out of our life, get the stress out of our life. And that's big, for me, that's a big part of it, right? I can't have too much of an idle mind. It's like, I want to have my mind keep moving and do something, right? My mind's always on, always working. So the more I can distract it from doing work and doing something like this, and I used to run, but it wore out my knees, right? And it's like, I did my one and only half marathon with my wife, and I was
just not easy.
One time I came back to being stubborn and too hard-headed, where I ran the whole thing. It was my first ever marathon. Before that, I never ran more than like 2 or 3 miles.
Oh, you went from like 2-3 miles to just that?
I got ready to
13.1?
I ramped up to it, where I started doing, but that was just treadmill work. I was just doing like 6. I went from 2, 3, 4, 5 to 6, and 6 was the most I ran on a treadmill. Getting ready for the tournament, for the half marathon, and we did the one in San Diego where it was you run around SeaWorld, I think it was SeaWorld.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we ran around SeaWorld, and it was a half marathon. And after that, I could not walk. We were supposed to go because the half marathon was in the morning. It was like 6 in the morning.
Yeah, you usually start pretty early.
Yeah, and we was like, oh, okay, then we could go to the beach later. And then so we went back to the hotel, and then we took a nap. I took a shower, took a nap. I woke up the sorest I've ever been in my life.
Couldn't move.
Oh my gosh. I could not walk. My legs felt like they were 1,000 pounds, and they hurt so bad. And it took like a whole week. And then I remember my coach telling me, I was like, why are you running? I was like, you're gonna hurt your knees. I was like, and then I was like, yeah, I know. I was like, and after that, I just never really ran again, because my knees I did too much to my knees. Where I just, as a kid, I did a lot of skateboarding. So my knees had already took a lot of impact. And
knees, back, hips.
And that's where my back injury came from, because I took a lot of falls. And also a lot of impact on my knees. I was that tiny kid trying to prove myself against the big kids. I want to jump off this railing. I want to jump off these stairs.
Oh my God.
And I was that kid. I was that kid running
clearing 13 stairs plus.
So I was jumping out really back stairs. Skating out of my local. Before we didn't have really many skateparks when I grew up. So I was that. Unfortunately, I was that kid going to these in the weekends going to
the schools and the libraries.
Unfortunately, that's why they have fences around schools these days. I was but yes, I was that kid, but I think my mom loved it because I was out of the house.
Oh, and out of the house, active,
and for us, obviously, we come from a different, era where we were allowed to go outside, and and there was no care in the world as long as we came back when the lights were on.
Right. Come back from
dinner, come back, and that was it. I was gone pretty much all day. Either riding my bike or skateboarding, or just being out with my friends and my cousin, and we would just be out doing whatever, just being kids. And that's why I think it comes back to is I tell my kids, go do something, because I knew that's what I love to do. And unfortunately, we can't do that much these days of letting our kids go around. I know where we live, we can kind of do that a little more and let our kids go to the parks, because it's a little easier there. But not we can't all do that. Where unfortunately, you can't just let your kid go out anymore. It's just the times we live in these days. Hopefully things change later on, but that's what I grew up with, just being an active kid that way. I wasn't big enough to do regular sports. I think that's why I fell in love with jiu-jitsu too, and because I always did kind of off-brand sports. So I was more like, hey, I want to skateboard. I was more skateboard, BMXing with my friends, you know,
wow,
doing
okay.
dirt jumping and stuff like that. I was more of like an active kid that way instead of doing like traditional sports.
Right.
Where I played soccer as a kid, but that was it. I played flag football. That was it, you know, and never played any other sport. Flag football and soccer were the only two traditional sports I ever did. I love traditional sports. I love watching them, you know, but you know, I was always just kind of too slow, too small for everything. And skateboarding, you don't have to be any size.
No,
So you can BMX any size. So I think it was just always kind of gravitated to sports where there was no set of how big or how small somebody can be.
Right.
I think I always gravitated to kind of those sports, you know. Same thing with kind of like soccer, where, you know, the best person in the world right now is only like 5'7". So, right? And then he goes against these tall dudes that are like 6'3", 6'4", when they're going, you know, the World Cup just happened, if you're like a couple months ago, and you go against the other guys, they're just huge, and you see this tiny little guy like at 5'7", you know, being the best in the world, just, you know, juking everybody and moving around. And I think I see that, and it's like, it gives, you know, a lot of kids hope, where they find, that's why I say, do something you love, find something you love, because that's going to be something that's going to help you, right?
Well, jiu-jitsu has like a longevity to it.
It has a longevity.
Right? So that's another thing. Like, I know the Spartan races and all those obstacle races got really popular.
Yeah.
Because it was like the, you know, young kids too, don't get me wrong, teenagers, 20-year-olds, but you got 30, 40, 50, 60-year-olds doing this.
Yeah.
And these guys, you know, it almost seemed as once you got out of college, or if you went to college, like there was nothing organized anymore. You could play like a softball team, a basketball team, but it wasn't as popularized, it wasn't as convenient, there wasn't a lot out there.
Correct.
So now I feel like the Spartan race took off, and now a lot of people are reborn again, athletic people.
And then what they find is like, oh, I'm glad I found this. I needed an outlet. And what's always something you hear is like, I needed an outlet. I needed to do something, right?
Yes.
Right? Something to add to my day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Right? And fortunately, jiu-jitsu and like Spartan racing, like all those races, they don't have like a cutoff of age and when you can do them. Like jiu-jitsu, you can start at any age. And you don't have to, and I tell myself, you can be, you know, I always hear, you know, I'm too old. Or I'm too big, or I'm too small. Well, no, nobody's ever too big, too small, too old, too young to start jiu-jitsu. No. Right? You can always get somebody moving into it. Like, one of my training partners, Parker Ladd, he's one of my professor's first black belt, and he's one of our oldest residents. He's in his late 60s, I think, at this point.
Wow.
But he started when he was in his 50s.
No, right? I mean, I know you're telling me about this guy, which is amazing.
And he's a big testament to where I was like, I see him do it. I was like, man, if he can do it, anybody can do it. Yeah. But then you even see people that are older than him doing it. You know, people starting in their 70s and their 80s, and they're getting their blue belts, and they're like, and what do they always tell you? They always tell you, like, I feel so alive. I just feel like I'm doing something better in myself, and I can move. But it all comes down to like, you just have to. Big thing about it too is kids and adults is getting out of your comfort zone, and it takes a lot to walk in through that door and want to try this.
Well, we get a lot of quiet people. You get a lot of quiet people that come in here.
And what happens after like a few months or a year? They're no longer quiet people.
They start talking to everybody else, and then new kids coming in. Oh, it's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You'll be there eventually.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Because you can
more encouraging.
And you might even be quiet in your normal day to day, and you might just be. That was me. 100%. I'm very, very rare, and my wife can tell you. She would never tell you that I would be sitting in front of a camera talking to people, or even sitting in front of people and talking to people like this, because that was not me. I was very just
introverted.
I was a very big introvert, and she can tell you that even, you know, where this has helped me a lot, and where a lot of people that come in here, if you're introverted in your normal life, you will quickly find out that this will get a lot of that out of you. Yeah. And then you'll still be like a little bit introverted, but it'll actually bring you out of your shell.
That is true.
A lot of the adults, I have a lot of adults, and even my teens, they come in here and then they start talking, and then they start goofing off, and then like we're all kind of like, you guys are all just playing around with each other. Same thing with my kids. They come in here, I have the most timid kid come in, and very shy, and then the more they open up slowly, they'll open up to me first, and then they start opening up a little more to their teammates. And then once I have them in here long enough, and if I see that they're just still kind of like a little quiet, I tell them like, we've been here way too long to be shy. And then they open up after that, and they understand where they understand I'm not here to be another normal day-to-day teacher from, you know, from their school where they need that. We know they need that little structure, but here I'm more of the just laid back, right? I'm laid back and I'll just make sure, and I try to make sure they're comfortable in here because they're already doing something that's difficult. They don't they don't need somebody me to push them really hard. You know, I'll push them in a way that they need to be pushed, but at the same time I'm trying to get them to be also very confident in themselves when they come in here. And I tell all my students when they've been here long enough, I was like, you've been here too long to be shy.
Yes, yeah. Just like that too.
Yeah, as like, we've been waiting here too long. And then they're like, okay, but then like I said, it's like they come in here and they love it. And then what's amazing is seeing you guys helping newer people, right? And because they know you guys knew where they've been. But it's also amazing seeing my young kids, my kids class helping new kids.
Wow.
That is where you see, because they understand where the new students are at. It's a completely new space, learning a bunch of new people. Where, you know, it gets pretty loud in here sometimes, and you're learning something new.
That's true.
So what's amazing when I see my kids helping out other kids, and that's the biggest thing I can ask for. It's like where they understand. It's like, and they understand that everybody's here and we all want to succeed together, and they want to make sure that the other students are okay. And I think this helps out a lot. And I see some of the students are already helpful kids, and they're already just compassionate kids. But then other students that are, you know, they learn. I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I've been here before. I was like, I gotta make sure they're, you know, they feel comfortable here too, right?
Yeah.
And when I see that, I take great pride in that. Where, you know, I'm glad we're building that type of environment, because we can build a completely wrong environment too, where, you know, we can be a really non-welcoming gym and very non-welcoming to new people. Unfortunately, I've seen that, you know, not here, but not in my coach's gym, but, you know, it's just some people. I mean, not people, but just some places are just not. It's, you know, culture's a little different.
Yeah.
But I think that's just life. You know, you'll run into some places where you just go more welcoming than others, and I take big pride of making sure our place is really welcoming, and we're one big family here, and you know, nobody's better than anybody else. We're all just here, right? And I tell all my students too, I'm just your coach, I'm just your professor, I'm just teaching you, but at the end of the day, I'm still a normal person. I just know something that I'm teaching you, and that's it. I don't know, and you know, I still do struggle in my day-to-day lifestyle. You know, we all live the same life. I'm not doing anything, you know, better than you. I'm just the same person. I never want to get to the point where people think, you know, they need to, you know, think that I'm on this pedestal or anything. I never want to breed that environment, and I never want to come off that way. It's just because I don't see myself better than anybody. I just know a sport. I just been doing a sport longer than you guys. That's it. That's all it is. It's just a sport.
Like you said, you want to keep the lineage going.
Keep the lineage going, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, same thing. You know, it's just a sport. We're learning. We're all learning together. I'm still learning. You know, my students ask me, especially my kids, it's like, Coach, I was like, you still train? I was like, yeah. Why don't I train? I was like, well, so you're a black belt. I was like, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Right. I still have to learn. I was like, there's still jiu-jitsu. All the moves are made up.
Right. So you kind of blew my mind when I got here. I was like, oh.
All the moves in jiu-jitsu are made up, right? So still new moves are getting added to. New moves are getting changed or tweaked, and somebody's come up with new type of, you know, guard or a new way to take the back, or, you know, new way to, you know, finish somebody. And if we're not learning, then the sport's only going to stay at a certain level. Right. And that's the thing from us that's different from our sport to other sports, right? Where other sports, there's so many striking moves you can do, right? But then you also see some that are just come from a totally different area, and they're striking from this weird style. And with same thing with jiu-jitsu, you have so many different styles, from your style to your teammate style to somebody from another. Everybody knows jiu-jitsu, but it's just different styles, and your style changes the way jiu-jitsu is done. But not in a bad way, right? We don't ever want to change it in a bad way. We still want to keep your fundamentals and your base in the traditional moves that we've learned, because all the fundamental moves are always what you revert back to. But then you add your style to it, and that's how jiu-jitsu works. So that's why I tell my students, yeah, I still train, I still learn, I still ask my coach, my professor for guidance and how I'm critiquing my moves. Because if I'm not, then I'm doing a disservice to the sport, and I'm just doing a disservice to you guys of not keeping up with the sport and what's going on in the current trends now, and also evolving the sport. Because if I'm not evolving the sport, then who's going to evolve the sport? If none of us evolve the sport, then the sport will never evolve. And so that's why I tell my students, yeah, I still train. I have no ego. I'll tap to anybody. I'll go and ask questions. I still, I still do classes with my coach. I don't stop training. Tell my students, just because if you think you're going to get your black belt, and then that's it, that's not it. You actually do more learning as a black belt. So
I feel like too, once you commit to that and you get there, I mean, most people, maybe you think like, okay, I'm gonna get my black belt and be done.
Yeah.
But once you put all those years in and work and tears and sweat, I mean, at that point, it's like, why would I quit now?
Yes.
You know, usually people who make it that far, they just don't want to quit.
Yes.
And as I know, most of the guys you bring around here who are, either sparring buddies, other gym owners around the area, who are black belts, they all kind of have a similar mentality to where they want to just continue teaching and teach other people, and any questions they answer like no problem. There's not like they're not intimidating to the point where it's like they're intimidating because they have a black belt, but they're not intimidating to like talk to them or just ask them questions.
Just normal people.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That you sometimes forget, and because I remember when we sometimes forget, because I remember when I was a white belt or blue belt, my only black belt I knew was my coach and my old coach, right? And so and back then, there wasn't that many gyms around here, and as now there's quite a bit, and so you have more black belts these days. So black belts were kind of like, whoa, these, and I kind of forget how. That's how some people, especially when they start the sport, they see a black belt and they're like, "Whoa!" Right? And I was like, and I totally forget sometimes. I was like, well, to me, it's just like I've been training so long. It's like, oh yeah, that's just Doc, and that's just Blue, my buddies that train, or that's just Rick or Red. And I was like, and they're black belts, but we're just still normal people. We just hang out as normal people, but then I forget that when you're just starting, I was like, well, okay, I'm gonna ask this black belt. It's kind of a little intimidating sometimes. That's why I never want to come off that way. Fortunately for me, I'm little, so I'm not intimidated at all. So they ask me questions all the time, which is good, because when you could see like my coach, he's a little intimidating, but then when you get to know him, he's just a big teddy bear. And I was like, but yeah, I was like, that's how it should be. I mean, that's how I should see it. Where I see it, where the black belt, you shouldn't be able to ask him any questions, and you should be able to ask him to, hey, can we roll? And yeah, good, because you want to help them out, and if we're not helping out, then at the end of the day, what did we train all those years? Spend all those years of training for, just to keep the knowledge. All right. It's like, we're here Monday through Saturday, so Monday through Friday. If you guys ever want to come by, Monday through Friday. Our little kids class, which are our 6-year-olds to 8.5-year-olds. Those are 4:15 to 5 o'clock. Then our 9 to 12.5-year-old or 13-year-olds are 5 to 6 Monday through Friday. And then our adult class, which is anybody 13, 14 and up, to adults, that's 6 to 7 every Monday through Friday. And then Saturday, which today's Saturday, 10 to 12 is usually is your sparring days. And if hopefully now down the road we can add more classes, but right now just those are the classes we have at the moment.
I feel like it's a good balance, because most people have work.
Most people have work,
so they have to go and
they have to go and do other things. Same thing for me. It's like I train in the morning. I mean, I train everybody at night, and then and we go from there. No training in the mornings, but it's been a journey. As I can only imagine where we feel like with this place or wherever we're at, 10 years from now. 10 years from now. I was going to ask,
going forward, do you have any plans or ideas?
So the goal at the moment is just keep growing organically, nothing too crazy, right? And then we'll be here for the next few more years, and then if we can move into a bigger space, and then later on down the road, if it's something where it just gets too big, then I would have to teach full time. And
oh man, that would be awful.
So teach full time, and just retire from my day-to-day job. I can only imagine where we feel like with this place or wherever we're at, 10 years from now. 10
I
years
was
from
going to
now.
ask, going forward, do you have any plans or ideas?
So the goal at the moment is just keep growing organically, nothing too crazy, right? And then we'll be here for the next few more years, and then if we can move into a bigger space, and then later on down the road, if it's something where it just gets too big, then I would have to teach full time. And
oh man, that would be awful.
So teach full time, and just retire from my day-to-day job, which that job, fortunately, I still love, and I've loved from the beginning, because that was another thing where it was a job that it was another hobby of mine that I turned into a career. Just kind of like this. It was a hobby that just kind of turned into another business thing, where my normal day-to-day job, I always loved working on the computer and kind of working with electronics. So anytime I was something like at school that would come up like a project, it always revolved around working on electricity or something about electronics, and then came to find out that working on doing biometric security and working in the security field was something right up my alley, because A, involved programming, B, involved working with electronics, and I just loved learning, and I still love it to this day. I don't do it so much now. It's more just managing people, but I still enjoy it because it was something that I truly loved as a kid. I was a hobby as a kid, where I loved tinkering with a computer, I loved tinkering with electronics, and then come to find out you can actually do that as a career. It's like
a win-win.
Yeah, so I turned two hobbies into a career. So I didn't even know about it until recently, where I was like, oh yeah, I did turn two hobbies into a career unintentionally. Both of them were unintentionally, and I think that at the end of the day, that's why I tell people, do what you love, because I do two jobs. Yes, they still I still get mentally drained just like anybody else, even though it's something I love to do. You still get tired. But I'd rather be getting tired doing something I love than something I just didn't want to do. Where I just took a career to take a career for no reason other than it was going to pay me money, right? Unfortunately, I was able to turn those into careers, and it's gone well. It was so. I think I even had that question. We were camping with some friends, and the kids asked questions about asking the adult about what job would you do to change your life? And then when it came to me, I was like, nothing. I do exactly what I want to do. I was like,
Which a lot of people don't actually.
Yeah, and I
can't answer it that way.
I remember I had a teammate about that too. I was like, he was asking. I was like, hey, do you love your job? I was like, yeah, I love my job. And I was like, you're very, very rare, because not a lot of people, unfortunately, I understand a lot of people, went and had to do what they do because they just needed to work. And I understand that too. And I was in the same boat, but it just turned into something that, I loved, where not a lot of people can say that they love their job, which is unfortunate. But that's what I tell everybody, do what you love. Hopefully it can turn into a career.
Yeah, no, 100%, dude.
And it takes a long work. I mean, I've done
work.
biometric security for, 16 years? 16, 17 years, something like that. Long time.
20 years? You started about 20-ish?
Yeah, I started when I was 20. Oh, yeah. So, I started about 20, so... Yeah, 17 years. So, 17 years, I was I've done...
Oh, my God, going on 2 decades.
Yeah, and it's something... Unfortunately, I work with the company that's very, very, very good company. So, that also works. So, find somewhere to that vibes with your vibe, because... And especially now, and not anything jiu-jitsu related, is just... We live in an era where you can pretty much turn anything into a career. Yeah. And we live in the social media age where, fortunately, we're in the beginning of it. Our era, at least my generation.
I feel like our kids have a way better advantage or understanding of how to get into it faster, for sure.
Because when I was in high school, social media wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing yet.
I think text messaging.
Messaging, yeah, that was just starting. I remember my first little flip phone that I could take a picture.
It was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.
My first phone didn't even have a camera on it. I remember that's how old I am. I was
we're very pixelated.
Yeah. So no, I didn't have no camera. I had no camera. I was just a little brick phone like this with a little keypad on it. Right, then later on, once photos came around, then actually my wife, which she was my girlfriend at the time, She had the, like, I thought she was so cool because she had this flip phone that had like this little camera on it. It's like, it had a little antenna on it. I was here struggling with the little brick phone. I was like, man, how is she gonna? She likes it. I hold this little brick phone. She has this nice phone. So I still remember that because then she had this cool phone. And I was like, and I was still struggling in the year 2000 or whenever it was, but not year 2000, but just the 2000 era phone.
Right.
But yeah, it's like I remember it's fortunate. Like if you're young, I know we're a little older, we're already doing what we're doing, but if you're young, definitely it's like you have like the world at your disposal. You have so many things you can do these days. Everything, careers that you can do now wasn't even fathomable back 20 years ago.
Even
right? 10 years ago. So
like
you
for
can
the
do
masses
anything.
at least.
And so.
Well, maybe we're just getting older. Because I feel like this is what our parents told us.
True, but
you guys are so young.
Yeah. I was the same way. My parents were like, "Why are you doing that jiu-jitsu stuff?" I was like, "Why are you like getting hurt?" I was like, "You won't understand." I was like, it is true, and not until you try it, they understand you. Until you love something so much that you don't care about getting hurt.
Right.
It's like you won't understand. I was like, because it's just true. It's really it's a person that doesn't understand. They won't never know. It's like the love of something until you try, until you find something you really love that you don't care what obstacles you have in front of you. You're gonna do it either way.
Right,
you don't care what people say about you. You don't care that they're making fun of you. I have so many people tell me, "Oh, you do that karate stuff."
Really?
Yeah, I do that karate stuff. Yeah, like
I feel like it's changing. Oh, okay. I was
friends.
gonna say it's changing now because with MMA it bolstered it.
Oh yeah. So and then people understand. So many train people now. There's like so many people train now, and which is
it's
good.
a lot more common.
A lot more common.
Karate was probably the closest to it when I was growing up, where everyone knew, and maybe that's probably why. Chuck Norris.
Yeah, and I wish I did karate as a kid. Nothing against karate. I wish I did karate. It's just,
there's
my
nothing
parents
against
couldn't
karate.
afford it, so like I couldn't do anything like that.
I wanted
So
to
I
do karate.
I didn't do any martial arts because back then even martial arts things were just so expensive, and it's like my parents couldn't afford it, so try to do just more like school sports because they're just cheap. It was like $60.
As long as you cover the uniform.
So cover the uniform, but that was it. So it's fortunate that they can at least do that, and I can do something, and it was good, and but now I hope to grow this space and hopefully to keep my body running for a long time, because I understand it's a long road. I still need to train as I'm older. Right. So I got to really take care of my body. So it's the only body I have. So even though I like to run it to the ground sometimes, I got to understand that it's the only body I have. But we got to listen to our body, and I tell that to my students: listen to your body, because it's you want to keep training. If you want to keep training, you got to listen to your body. That all comes back to talking to you about what supplements I should be taking, and supplements that are working. What's not working, and I feel like everything that I'm taking at the moment has helped out tremendously. Not even just physically, but mentally. And I feel like they've been helping a whole lot on the especially recently with the mushrooms. These are cordyceps mushrooms and like all that kind of stuff.
Turkey tail, shiitake, maitake,
like lion's mane,
chaga, lion's mane.
Man, those I can't. If you're looking to ever heard about the mushrooms that way, not magical mushrooms. I was like,
no, that's psychedelic mushrooms.
But if you're ever looking, I was like, I highly encourage them. I'm trying to get Zach into them, my buddy Zach into them.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, so I actually sent them the website and sent them the website last night. Like, hey. You need to try these mushrooms. I was like, because they're good for recovery.
So they help a lot with
stamina,
recovery, inflammation. So they reduce a lot of inflammation, which then decreases the risk of certain cancers, such as colon cancer as well. And helps with neuroinflammation as well. So and functionality and functioning in the brain.
Man, I just feel like the mental clarity that I get from it.
Yeah.
When I take them, because I take them in the morning. When
I take all three of them.
I try to take all three of them in the morning. Sometimes I kind of hit and miss, where if I miss it, I'm running out the door to take the kids to school, and then I have to go to work.
Gotcha.
I'll just do it when I come back, and then do them before. Either if I come back and then pick up the kids from school, and then before I head to come and teach, I'll take them, and then that way I get that mental clarity when I'm teaching.
Okay.
But if I take them in the morning, for some reason take in the morning is beneficial for me, but even if I take them in that night, but I take them all at once. I take the B12 capsule, I take the mushroom capsules, and then I take the BPC capsule, but then I do the CGC at night, along with other things I have to take for my back. It's like the calcium pills and the vitamin D pills and stuff like that. But I take them all at once, and I definitely feel the difference if I don't take them one day and I take them the next day, because I feel like if I struggle. And also sometimes more of a mental thing where I'm just like, oh, I didn't take them today, so I kind of feel I'm more in my head about it.
Right. So is that maybe is a placebo effect?
Yeah, and then I think that way it's more my brain telling me, it's like kind of psyching me out. But when I don't think about it, at the end of the day, I was like, man, I kind of feel sluggish today mentally. I feel like a brain fart today, and everything. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't take the supplements this morning. And I definitely feel it in the mental clarity and also the recovery aspect. I feel like I have more energy.
Oh yeah.
When I take it, I feel like the BPC, the peptides I'm taking, I feel like that's helped a lot with my recovery, with my back surgery. And like I understand that I'm still recovering, so I'm just recovering, so I'm getting better naturally, just normally.
Sure, over time.
I feel like also everything I've been taking has definitely benefited. I mean, it can't hurt it, so it's totally gonna be beneficial. So, but it's something that I probably won't stop taking. It's like especially because I know I'm getting older, that I need to take more supplements. So another one I need to add is like creatine. So I need to add that. Like I've heard a lot of good things about about creatine and like a brain function as well.
Well, I feel like a lot of these supplements are getting to kind of cover all of that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I heard that too.
The creatine, I'm not going to talk too much bad about it. The biggest thing with the creatine is it tends to hold on a lot of water, so you gain a lot of water weight.
Yeah.
It brings water into the muscles, so it can definitely decrease cramping and increase your pump and everything like that. But focus-wise, the peptides are a lot better.
Oh yeah,
significantly. If you only have a choice between the two, the peptides are always better.
Oh yeah, as soon as I was on
same thing with the mushrooms, and same thing with the B complex that you're taking, that I'm taking too now. Mushrooms, he came to me and he talked me into the mushrooms. I always knew about them, but I didn't. I was doing the peptides and the B vitamins, BPC, I beat them more, and I was trying CJC, trying to find a DSIP as well for sleeping. But just in general, after just taking the BPC, I felt fantastic.
Yeah.
Like my recovery, even if I feel a little bit tired, if I stretch it out, by the end of the day, I'm able to come here no problem. And I might wake up with a little bit of soreness, but I can come back again.
And that's the thing, is I don't feel like the sluggishness anymore like I used to.
Yeah.
I feel like I have enough energy to last all day.
Yeah.
Usually, if before I started taking the peptides and the mushrooms and the B12, when I don't know, I had to take a nap before coming and teaching.
Oh really?
Or I'd just be kind of tired and try to take an energy drink before I was teaching.
Okay, which a lot of people do go for, right.
But then as I started taking them, I don't feel as tired anymore. And also, sleep is a big part of it too. And we talked about that as getting enough sleep.
Yes. For recovery, just in general.
It's where if I'm not sleeping, I am definitely grumpy. And my wife can tell you that. I am a grumpy person if I'm not getting enough sleep, and I just very easily agitated, just because I'm just still tired.
Yeah.
So I try to get enough sleep and take those, and I try to not to take too many of the energy drinks, because then it gives you all that jitterness.
Yeah.
And when I'm trying to teach, I'm not trying to be jittery when I'm teaching. So I rather not take the do too many of the Red Bulls or monsters before teaching, unless I really need it, where I just feel like I'm gonna be crashing.
Well, I haven't drank caffeine in a very long time. I don't drink coffee.
No?
No, and I used to have to wake up and drink 1 to 2 cups a day.
Oh, okay.
Just to kind of get me going.
Yeah.
What I've noticed is after taking, when I take the BPC, because I take that in the morning, within about an hour and a half after I take that, I'm just in this different zone where I'm I'm just aware of things. I can focus. I haven't had to use any boosters or anything since taking this. So it does help substantially mental clarity, and it helps with the taxation of thinking all day, being on your feet all day. It does definitely helps you with that. And then you were talking about the sleeping and back healing. That's why you're on that CJC at the Moreland for their growth hormone releasing peptides. That substantially helps because you have the growth hormone that releases at night.
Yep.
So it does help with your sleep, helps regulate sleep, helps you wake up and you feel like, oh, I've actually slept.
Oh yeah,
and you have young kids too.
I have young kids, yeah.
And 2 jobs.
And 2 jobs.
And then the stress should be, oh my God, but you're able to handle it.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Is like after being on the supplements, I feel like I have less stress. Like I feel like I'm more of a calmness too.
Yeah.
It's like where not everything stresses me out. It's like so. Or before, I was like I would have to worry about stuff for work, and not that I'm just forgetting things.
Or you still do it, and you still think the same way.
Yeah, it's like it's just not as it's easier. It kind of eases my life, and I think that's why for me, I'll take them, and I have to take them regularly. And I'll miss days here and there, not days, but just the times I need to take them. I'll maybe have but I was like, well, I can't keep doing this if I want to continue the way I'm feeling. So I have to make sure I'm taking them, and if I'm not, then I am not happy.
Right.
So
now with the CJC at Memorial, I get it a lot where, especially for women, they're nervous that they're going to get like bulky and massive if they take it and gain a bunch of weight, but like with weight gain, and you kind of keep it at a certain level to compete and everything like that. Have you noticed like you having to eat all the time as your appetite skyrocket? Are you gaining a ton of weight?
No, not necessarily.
Yeah, and it's hard to convince people that because growth hormone tends to do that. But
no, I mean that diet's the same.
Right.
I've always been a person that fasts in the morning, so I'd rather have coffee in the morning and fast in the morning. Feel like the way my body works, if I feel like three times a day, I feel like I'm just stuffed all day, and I wake up feeling stuffed.
Okay.
So I have to have that fasting in me. So I'd rather have like a big lunch than a big dinner.
Gotcha.
So, because I hate going to bed with like a big full belly.
It's not comfortable.
So,
it's not,
no, my diet hasn't changed since being on the medication. I don't feel like I'm finding myself eating more or eating less.
Right.
Maybe there are some days where if I had like a really light dinner, then I'll be up and I was like, okay, my stomach's hungry, so I'll listen to my stomach now.
Sure. There's nothing.
I come back to that where I listen to my body. If I feel like I'm hungry, I'll eat. If I'm not hungry, then I'm not hungry. But also it comes back to really drinking. What we're talking about, drinking all that water, drinking water.
Yes.
Is that
yes.
Drinking water really helps out a lot, and as I kind of listen to my body. But yeah, I'll eat lunch, normal dinner. One thing for me, I'm a big like sweets person. I've always been a sweets person, so I just gotta watch that. And then I was like, I understand. Or before, I would kind of like.
Are you confessing to me right now?
No. Anybody that really knows me, they understand. But even then, it's like I'll eat like 1 or 2. Like where before, like when I was younger, I was like, I'll scarf down a whole box of Oreos. Oh yeah, Oreos and milk. And then as soon as I found out I was lactose intolerant, I was like, no more milk. I was like, so then I threw out the Oreos. I was like, there's no sense of eating Oreos if I can't have milk. I was like, so, but I think that was all as I got older. I was like, starting to listen to my body more. The more sugar I intake, and the more inflammation I had, and the more I started hurting. Or more time took time from healing from training sessions.
Yes.
I would feel my body more inflammation when I eat a lot of sugars.
Yeah.
So I try to eat not too many sugars, but more just like food. But no, coming back to that, it's like, no, I don't eat less. I eat more. I can eat always more. I think.
Of course. I think.
I can eat a lot. Right. I can eat a lot, but I know that I shouldn't.
Right.
So I'm not that person where I can eat a lot. But I know it's not good for me. So it's like. But then there are days where if we have like a party or whatnot, and then I'll just gorge on food because it's just like one of those things where like. It's a party.
That's good food. You use really good food. Someone else made it.
So, but no, not my normal day-to-day life. But I don't think I've ever had any medication that I've ever felt that affected my eating. I think coming back to being mentally strong for jiu-jitsu, I think that's built that in me where I don't have really, I held the cravings, but I was like, I shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
I was like, so I come back to that. I have a lot of
Well, it's
willpower
discipline
these days. Yeah.
Well, this begin, and then like you were saying, doing this makes life easier.
It does.
This will give you discipline to, stop smoking.
Yeah.
If you're a smoker, if you really love this stuff, you'll stop. Or if you really want to, start moving around better and you really enjoy this and you're getting winded,
Yep.
you're going to stop eating as much. You want to get into shape or eating better food,
Yep.
better quality food. Because once you're here, you can tell the difference if you ate Oreos all day. Or if you had steak and chicken. Oh, dude, yeah.
Or having 2 steaks before.
Or 2 steaks, yes. Which I do dabble in a lot.
I never encourage eating before training because you'll feel it. You'll feel like a brick is in your stomach and you feel sluggish. So I always tell people.
Oh yeah. So hold on. I give myself like an hour and a half.
Even then, it's still digesting.
It was bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we didn't do typical.
You're on more of a meat diet, right?
Yeah, I do mostly. I do a lot of red meat now. I'm trying to eat as clean as possible. Eat good quality food, so like chicken and turkey, fish. Right. But with the beef, it gives me the amino acids and it gives me the good balance of protein, iron, and fat, and then the B vitamins, and then vitamin K2, which is another thing that is becoming more popularized lately.
What's the vitamin K for?
So vitamin K tends to help coagulate your blood a little bit better, like thicken your blood up.
And that's in red meat?
K2 is. K1 is in like green leafy vegetables.
Oh, okay.
So like spinach and broccoli. But K2 decreases risk of what we call coronary artery disease, atherosclerosis, or plaque in your heart and the pipes or arteries in your heart.
Which, why do they tell us the complete opposite about eating red meat?
Well, this is what I'm trying to figure out. Because it's, we have a lot, this is a whole other thing to talk about, but we have a lot of, there's a lot of money to be made. And anytime there's a lot of money to be made, whether it be medications, pharmaceuticals especially, or food.
Well, now they're telling us that Lucky Charms is healthier than eating red meat.
Yes, and eggs too.
And eggs.
Which eggs has a lot, and red meat has a lot of choline in it. And choline is highly important for our nervous system.
Yep.
Especially in our brain to ward off dementia. So it's interesting, we're getting more diagnoses of dementia, Parkinson's, memory loss, memory fogness. And we're pushing more of these like seed oils, and we're pushing more of these processed foods. When I grew up, processed food tasted good, don't get me wrong, but my mom never, regardless of what it was, never told me this was healthy. She was always trying to stop me eating these.
Right.
She would buy them and say, this is the treat,
Yeah.
It was always eating like beef, vegetables, chicken, pork, fish, a lot of potatoes, rice. If you just go back to what your body can normally process, our bodies are not normally processing hydrogenated oils that are
they can't process
solidified.
glue.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right, no, exactly. So, the new school for thought is more of going back to what did our ancestral living, carnivore diet, what did they eat? Obviously, if you're doing great in your diet and you're incorporating a lot of fruits and vegetables, it's great. If you're feeling good, don't really change anything. If your numbers are good, meaning like your labs, there's no reason to change anything. But for me, I can tell a difference, in my energy. Because I think again, you're just in tune when you start dabbling with these kinds of ideas and changing your diets and introducing new things and exercising. You're more in tune with your body. But I can tell the difference between like Little Caesar's pizza, like I had a little bit last night, because there was some left over after that brutal on workout, or eating, literally like beef, liver, like whole foods with a bunch of stuff that we need that we don't produce, like the BCAAs. I can tell a huge difference. Weightlifting, all of that.
Especially in the red meat, correct?
Oh yeah, the red meat. The amount of BCAAs and like let's say like an inch by inch, a square of red meat is like the same as if you get 1 scoop of amino acids.
And that's any red meat? Like
well, there's always going to be like, if you look at beef, specifically like a steak, because ground beef could have more fat in it,
right?
And it could have like various organs, heart valves, things like that. You don't know exactly. And then if you're doing like a grass-fed versus fully grain-fed, versus getting it from a small farm butcher to getting it from like Costco commercialized. So each is going to have different levels of nutrients.
Right.
So, but still, if you eat a steak from like Costco or Safeway, it's still going to have, if you eat that whole steak, it's going to have more than just one scoop of fat. But a lot of people worry about the saturated fats and what it's doing to our arteries and everything like that. So then they try the BCAAs instead. But this comes back to the supplement, conversation that we have, and why we are getting the supplements from this Designs for Health rather than getting it from Nature's Made or other companies.
Right.
Is you can feel the difference when taking these supplements. That stuff that's actually in these, because they're an independent company. Like on Amazon, they're the only one. They have something on Amazon, but they're the only ones that can sell it.
Ah, I see.
But if you go through and you can only go through prescribers. So if you go through me or another prescriber, you get a better deal than going off of Amazon.
Right.
And then also you get the catering, and you get more knowledge behind what's going on as you look through the website and everything like that. But the quality that's in it, I was telling you about the B vitamins, which blew my mind. You always look for that color, the urine color change, like that light green. That and you see that.
Yeah. Yep.
And normally and this is a powder, normally with capsules. Normally with capsules, you don't see that.
Oh.
Or you have to take a large amount to see that. Usually you have to take a liquid because it's better absorbs.
Okay.
This is showing you that no, this is absorbing.
Yeah.
And it's processing through your body.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, for 6 to 8 hours of the day, unless you're chugging like gallons of water, you have a different change.
I definitely noticed that when I see there's like a green tint to it.
Yeah,
So.
and it's got more of the what we call the methylated forms of the B vitamins, which are easier to digest and are active forms. So when they get in our body, they can act on the pathways and where they're supposed to be acting. Rather than like cyanocobalamin or methylcobalamin.
Yeah.
Cyanocobalamin is more of synthetic, and it's not really active. It doesn't really do too much. It has its time and place, in certain medications. But if you're trying to supplement to get B12 up, that's not going to do it. You're going to have to take a large ton of it to get to where you want to be. To where
like a B12 shot.
Yeah, well, the B12 shots are also, you should be getting methylcobalamin. But with the amount that you're getting, that urine color change is showing you that your body's absorbing everything that it needs, and that's the waste of it.
Okay.
So it's processing through your body, and that's the waste. Mm-hmm. So if you don't really need to get injections.
It's this tiny little capsule.
Yeah.
All right, but you're taking it every day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if the benefits of taking a capsule once a day, is great. That's like
literally once a day.
Literally one a day.
That's it.
And it's like it's not gonna hurt you. It's not something like it's just gotta remember to take it. I have an alarm that I set for like if I forget to take the pills in the morning.
It'll beep again.
It'll have an alarm set up for at 8 o'clock at night because that's by the time I leave here and I'm at home and I'm eat dinner. I was like that if it just reminds me. It's like and then if it goes off, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't take the medication today. I was like so. I gotta take it right now. I was like, so it just reminds me, just if I'm not taking it in the morning, then at least I'm taking it at night.
Okay.
Yeah,
of course.
Every day. I was like, so, but yeah, I was like, usually I try to take it in the morning. Like, took it this morning all together, and then that way when the alarm goes down, I was like, well, I already took it. It's fine. So it'll be fine. But it's just, I know some people say, I just can't stay current. I can't stay consistently taking the medication. I was like, well. If you really want to, you'll do it. And I was like, that's a big part of it. And for me, I was the same way. I can't take a multivitamin every day. I can't, And then as soon as I just really focus on taking them, and I was like, okay, I gotta set an alarm, and I'm gonna take these medications no matter what. I was like, and half the time that we don't want to take it is just because especially for me, I'm just lazy. I was like, I'm already in bed. I was like, I don't want to get up and take it. And I was like, whereas like if we really want to, if we know that what the end goal is just to be better, then we'll take it.
Well, if it's working.
And if it's working.
If you can actually feel a difference, I always tell people give it at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Try a supplement 2 weeks. If you can't notice any changes in your life, okay, then maybe it's not working for you, or maybe you have to increase. But and this is just with anything, if something is working for you, and you can tell a difference, you're gonna keep taking it.
Oh yeah.
So again, I'll post the I'll post your address and your information for the Revive in like the comment section and everything like that, and then the supplement company as well that we were talking about, and kind of the supplements that George has taken that's kind of helping him and what it's helping for. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I mean, you're a great guy. You know what you're doing. You're a good coach. And yeah, you notice it definitely. I definitely notice when I walk in here when you're working with the kids, how they respond to you and how they approach you and they feel comfortable around you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So yeah, no, I appreciate you. It's been like 2 hours, so
yeah.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
Thanks,
it. Well, if we don't wrap it up, is there a favorite move that you want to show people real quick?
Oh.
I know we
sure.
rolled for like a couple hours before this.
Sure.
I know we don't got D's on. We're doing
No. I can show you guys. I think we can do it here. I think we can capture on the camera. I can show you a basic move. Say something that maybe like a schoolyard thing where you see either if it's you get pinned down by a taller person, right? Or it's a woman that you get pinned down. I can kind of show you. This is kind of what I show people on what to do if that happens. So this position right here was we call mount, right? So when you're stuck here in mount, anytime you have like somebody's trying to control you and they're trying to pin you down to the ground by holding your wrist, okay? And we're here. We got to make sure our feet are closest to our bottom. What we want to do is we want to do a bridge. That means I have to lift my bottom up off the ground, right? As high as I can get it. But at the same time as I'm doing that, I want to make sure I swing my arms downward in this direction, right? So when I do that, right, I lift my bottom up as fast as I can and I swing my bottom exactly. See how his hands have to hit the ground? Now when you do this, you can go ahead and you want to go ahead and trap an arm here, boom, and now I can go ahead and hug. Or when we here, you can just go ahead and hug here, right? We can go ahead and hug here and they try to come up, they try to hit us, right? Or they try to here, they try to, we stay attached here, good, until I can go ahead and start trapping an arm on the other side, good, and then I can go ahead and I can start rolling over to the other side here. But if this is a position you find yourself in ever, you want to make sure, we'll go ahead and do it again, Matt, right? So we'll go ahead and we're here and they trap your arms, right? We can get out of this, right? We can go ahead and bring our feet close to our bottom. Okay, I want to lift my bottom up as high as I can, and I want to swing my arms as fast as I can down towards their legs. So what idea is you want to swing these arms. Go ahead, let go for me a second. Is you want to swing these arms as fast as you can down, right? As you're lifting your bottom up as fast as you can. That way their hands can come off. Because when I do this, it swings their body forward. So if I take their hands go down, their face is going to hit the mat, or if they hold on, or they're going to have to take their hands off my arms. So when I do this, I'm here, right, and I bridge, and I'm here, you're fine, right? And then what you can do, if you feel like you get hit, you can go ahead and clasp together, right, until we're here. They're trying to get close to you, right? They're trying to get close to you, and so I can trap an arm here, right? Now I can squeeze, and now I want to look away towards the direction. I'm going to go to this direction, and I just want to bridge again, right? And I start turning over until I can get to the top. And that's the easiest way to get out of that mount.
And he's we're about 100-pound difference.
Just a little bit.
And he did it with ease.
So
awesome, man.
No problem.
That was good.
Thank you.
I like it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.